Great. Thanks, Gretchen. Hi, everybody. It is 3 p.m. in Austin, Texas, after 24 too many cold winters and 4 of them in Ithaca. I headed to much warmer climates. So I think the high for today is about 80 degrees, which is amazing. So really excited to have all of you here and talk to you about entrepreneurship. So this will be really a brief kind of introduction into things and just giving you a foundation for what it means to be an entrepreneur and what are some of the things that you can do now to get started. So just gonna click here. So the agenda will do introductions. I'll talk about what entrepreneurship is. We'll talk about generating an idea. So, how do you come up with something? I will talk about a tool called the Lean Canvas and how you can use that. We'll go through some ways that you can test an idea and then talk about some next steps for you all. But first, we have a couple poll questions just so we can get an idea of who is here in the room with us and why you all decided to join this webinar. So Gretchen is going to go ahead and just launch that poll so I can learn a little bit more about you and where you're coming from, and that'll just help me get a better idea of what to talk to you all about. So we'll give everybody just a minute to answer those poll questions, and then Gretchen will read those out to me, and I'll learn a little bit more about all of you.
Shana, I'm going to let a few more people answer. It looks like we have a couple of selections here coming in. Great. So let me about most of our folks here have entered our poll. Thank you. I'm going to end it. One more chance to click on a box. End the polling, and I'm going to share the results. And you should be able to see that right there.
So I actually still can't see.
Sorry. That's right. We have some technical things here. So it looks like here, Shana, we have nobody's a startup employee. We actually have some as a startup employee. We have some undergrads, about 2 out of the 10. We have 4 entrepreneurs here, about 4 in transition. And so that kind of gives you, I don't have any retirees or professors or grad students here, but we have a couple startup employees and it looks like a couple of undergrads.
Awesome. Okay, great.
Great.
So I know a little bit about you, but to tell you more about me. So as Gretchen mentioned, I graduated in 2013 with a bachelor's in communication, management, and design. So that is a Park School major. I went into Ithaca thinking that I wanted to do events. So I went into the business school, spent a semester there before I found CMD in the Park School, went ahead and switched majors, but I kept a business and marketing minors thinking that those would be important skills to have. And as I was going through the 4 years, as I'm sure all of you know, undergrads, you might not know this yet, but things are going to change. And things went from event planning to nonprofit event planning to nonprofit management, to just kind of program management. And so when I graduated, I was applying mostly for jobs with nonprofits doing some kind of program management. My first job out of college, I'll actually talk about that in a second. So also program manager and facilitator for 3-Day Startup, I'll talk about, and then I'm the co-founder of a nonprofit called the Experience Fund that failed. So my journey, as I mentioned, started at Ithaca. Right out of college, I got my first full-time job with internqueen.com. So some of our undergrads here might be familiar with it, a great website for finding internships. I actually interned at Intern Queen my junior year, and then a position opened up after I graduated that was a really good fit for my skill set. So I was managing campus marketing campaigns on colleges all over the country. So I was working with brands like GNC and L'Oreal and Ford Motor Company to help them reach a college audience. And I was working with brand ambassadors for Intern Queen, and it was awesome, and I learned a lot, and it was an amazing first job, going into a first job and being a manager and getting all the experience that I got from working with a small startup team was really, really valuable. And I would not have gotten that experience, somewhere else where I was working at a larger company. And all of my internships were also with startups. And so I've kind of been working in the startup space for, I guess going on, 6 or 7 years now, unintentionally at first. Those just seemed to be opportunities I was drawn to. And while I was working at Intern Queen, one of our campus ambassador alumni actually approached me about an idea that she had surrounding internships. So a lot of internships are unpaid, and a lot of times students are actually paying to complete the internship. So we're paying to work for free, which adds to what is often an already growing mountain of student debt. And so we wanted to try and solve that problem. And the idea that we had come up with was grants. So we were going to be a nonprofit that raised money and we would give grants to college and university students to help cover the costs associated with completing unpaid internships and getting that experience that we knew that they needed. It was really exciting. It was really hard. And we started this while I was in transition, moving from New York down to Austin in between full-time jobs. My co-founder was at a full-time job in Boston. So we did all of this remotely. And so we set up this nonprofit. We set up our social media and we grew an email list and we did fundraising, and we're actually able to raise money to give one grant to an awesome student at the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities. She was interning at a nonprofit. Her application really resonated with us. And so we were able to give one grant, and it was really, really exciting. But after that, we struggled because we could not find a scalable business model. So if any of you are familiar with nonprofits, it's probably the traditional nonprofit that is always looking for donations, always fundraising, and always, one individual donor away from shutting the lights off. And we didn't want to do that. We wanted to be an organization that was sustainable and scalable so we can make a larger impact. And we just couldn't really find a way to do that. And so we shut things down about a year ago. It was definitely a tough decision, but it was the right decision. And it was a really, really good experience for just going through the process of, that first year of running a startup. About 2 years ago, so shortly after I moved to Austin, I found a job with 3-Day Startup. So we are an entrepreneurship education organization that teaches college and university students how to start companies. So you're probably seeing a theme here of working in startups and working with students. Students are amazing and wonderful and passionate, and they're going to change the world. And the work that we do is we deliver intensive hands-on weekend programs to teach them how to start companies. We actually will be at Ithaca in March. I will be there to deliver this program, the first one at IC. I'm super, super excited about that. I think it's going to have a really, really big impact on the students there. So I've been with 3-Day Startup for about 2 years now. I myself have facilitated over 20 programs all over the world. So I've been to Bogota, Colombia, I've been to England, and I've been to Australia twice. And then I've been all over the United States teaching students. So a real deep knowledge about startups and about that really, really early stage beginning of how these things get started for people. And all of this leads me to a deep, deep belief that I know in my core to be true, that anyone can be an entrepreneur. I know this the way I know that the sky is blue and that Ithaca is better than Portland. Anyone can be an entrepreneur. A lot of times when we're thinking of entrepreneurship and we're thinking of startups, we're seeing the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world, and we are seeing white men with Ivy League degrees and a lot of money. And that is simply not what entrepreneurship is truly about. And so what I really love doing is being able to empower people of all kinds through entrepreneurship and activate the potential that I think everybody possesses to be able to be an entrepreneur. So to just kind of give us a beginning definition of what is entrepreneurship. So a quick Google search will give you this, the activity of setting up a business or businesses and taking on financial risks in the hope of profit. And I have an asterisk there because people that start nonprofits are most certainly entrepreneurs as well. So whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's a for-profit, whether it's a social enterprise, so you're looking to make money and make a change in the world, all of these are facets of entrepreneurship, and they make entrepreneurs. And so with that frame, I kind of want to move forward. So if we were going to be talking about, there's a lot of questions about startups and is it tech and non-tech. And for the purpose of this, I want to talk about entrepreneurship across the board. So anyone just starting a business, looking to make money or to make impact, or both. One of the most important things to remember here that we really just cannot say enough is to make something people want. So this is a quote by Paul Graham, the co-founder of Y Combinator, which is one of the most successful accelerators in the world. For people that might not be familiar, an accelerator is a 3-month program that startups go through to help them start their business. So they get mentorship, they get money, they get workshops, and a lot of different resources. And he said to make something people want, because a lot of times what we see is that people have these great ideas and they maybe tell people, maybe their friend says, yeah, that's super cool. They've been thinking about it for a while and they think it's the greatest thing, right? But if we are not making something that people actually want, if we're not filling some need for people or solving some problem that people will actually pay us to solve, then we're not going to get very far. And so it's really important to keep in mind that we are looking here to solve problems for people that they will actually pay us to solve. And kind of as you're thinking of ideas and you're thinking about this business that you have in mind, you want to keep coming back to, do people want this? Is there a need, or is there a problem that I'm solving? And there are a lot of myths about entrepreneurship that we hear a lot from students and just from other people that we talk to. That again, people see Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and Reddit and all of these things, and they think that is startups, that's entrepreneurship. But that's not the case. Entrepreneurship looks like a lot of different things. So people think that it needs to be free of competition, and that's certainly not true. What the good thing about competition is that it shows you that there is a need for this. If somebody is already solving this problem somehow, there's a problem. And sometimes when we talk to people about ideas they have and we ask them, who else is in the space? And there's no one, that's almost a bit of a warning flag of, why hasn't somebody else tried to solve this problem yet? Are there, regulatory things they're running into? Is there some kind of barrier to entry in this market? And, building on that, you don't have to be the first to market, and it's often better not to be. So you get to, similar to racing bikes, you get to ride in someone else's drift, and they can make those first mover mistakes, and you can learn from that, and then you can be really good. They don't need to be high tech or patent based. So again, one of our favorite examples of entrepreneurship of a highly not cool, not high tech startup is rolling luggage. So the wheel, not new at all for us. Suitcases, been around for a while. But one day someone said, what if we put wheels on our suitcases? Mind-blowing, right? Amazing. And it changed the way we travel. So they don't need to be these cool, sexy things that are super unique and all of that. And they don't always need to be ideas created by you. A lot of times people think, well, this already exists. I didn't think of this, so that's not, that doesn't count. And it does. People that open restaurants and hair salons and consultancies that provide graphic design and marketing assistance, that is all entrepreneurship. And that all counts. And one of the other really, really important things that we tell people is that it doesn't have to be a secret. A lot of times people are wary of sharing their ideas and telling people. And what's really important to remember here is nobody is going to steal your idea. We say this in a bit of a more aggressive way with our college students. And maybe if you undergrads are there in March, you'll catch that. But nobody is going to steal your idea. This is the fear that so many people have. But we have to remember that ideas are a dime a dozen. Ideas are not worth anything. It's the execution on them that matters. So if I sat here and I told you all an idea for my next startup, and one of you said, hey, that's a pretty good idea, and you went and executed on it, and I didn't, then I couldn't say anything about it because you went and did it. So it's really, really important to share your ideas with people and get feedback. And I'll talk a little bit more about, why that's so important. So for some people, some of you here probably do have ideas. If you're working on a startup or, you've been thinking about something. But for others who are maybe just interested in learning more about what this might be like, you might have an idea, you might want to do this in the future. A really good way to generate ideas is to just think about the things that are problems in your daily life, the frustrations that you go through every day, and all the times where you think, man, it would be so much better or easier or cooler if this existed, if I didn't have to do this, if there was a better way to do this. We call this scratching your own itch first. So a lot of startups, and arguably, all of them, are because someone had a problem with something and they wanted to solve it for themselves. And they realized that there are other people that are also interested, that also have this problem, that want a solution. And so when you're kind of going about your day and thinking of all these things that are, inconveniences to you or things that are annoying to you, just think about what, do other people have this problem? Might other people be struggling with this same thing? And how can we try and solve this? And this is a really, really great tool to work through that. This is the Lean Canvas. It was developed by a man named Ash Moria, who is from Austin. And this is a way to test an idea and test the strengths and weaknesses of this. So it's based on the Lean startup methodology, which is a scientific approach to managing a startup that gets desired product into customers' hands faster. So you'll remember, again, going back to that key principle of making something people want. What we want to make sure we do is that we are quickly iterating on our idea to make sure that we can get a product that customers want that solves a problem for them into their hands faster. And the way we do this is we have assumptions, and we go out and we test those assumptions, and we learn from those assumptions, and then we create new experiments and we test new things over and over again. The Lean Canvas is a really great tool to use throughout that process. So as you can see, this is it. It's 1 page, 9 boxes. It's really simple, but it allows you to really think about what you're trying to accomplish and how you can do that. A lot of times, this also isn't a one and done thing. So you don't fill it out once and say, okay, got it. This is something that you can fill out over and over again, and you should fill out over and over again as you identify new revenue streams and new customer segments, maybe a different solution to your problem. So what I want to do is I'm going to go over this with all of you right now. I'm just going to leave this slide up and just talk through each of these. But there are a ton of resources online that you can use. And Ash Moria actually wrote a book about the lean canvas and how to use it through his process of creating it. And that book is called Running Lean. And it's a really, really great resource as well. So the first box on the right is customer segments. So listing out your target customers. So who are the people that are going to buy and use this product or solution? And what's really important to think about here when we're thinking about customers is who is the narrow group that's going to use this. So for example, if we're making shoes, our customers are not everybody that has feet, right? Our customers are going to be women ages 26 to 40 that live in a metro area and make $60,000 a year. That sounds really specific, and it is for a reason. We want to identify these first early adopters that are going to use our product. So when the iPhone came out, way back when, it was for very nerdy tech guys. It was not for everybody. And that was okay. That was intentional. Those were the early adopters. And then as the product was validated and they made more updates to it and all these new versions came out, now everybody has an iPhone, right? Your grandparents have an iPhone. And so when you're talking about customers, you want to identify the people that you are solving this problem for. Which brings us to box 2 on the left-hand side. So you'll notice that these 2 are the largest boxes, and that is because these are the most important. So here we want to identify the problem. So what are the top 3 pains that our customer feels? What is the issue? What is the problem that you are trying to solve? And this could be something like, there aren't enough options for, healthy dining on campus. This could be something like there's no way for me to connect with my colleagues that, work all over the world in the right time zone. Whatever this problem is, list out specifically 1 to 3 of those issues. And what you also want to do is identify the current alternatives. So what are people doing right now to solve that problem? Because that'll help you find what are the gaps in those alternatives and where is there a place for me to come in and fix that? So next you want to fill out box 3, your unique value proposition. So what is something, a really clear message that tells people what you do and why you're important? What is different about you? And this will help you be able to quickly tell people that you meet on your website, that you talk to, on the street, that you put on marketing materials. What do you do? And one of the things that people like to use a lot is a high-level concept. So you probably have heard things like, this is the Airbnb for dogs. This is Uber for makeup artists. And why that's great is that it allows people to make an association. So people know what Uber, Airbnb is, or people know what a first aid kit is. And when you can say that you are the X for Y, that allows people to quickly understand what you're doing. It might take a little while to think about this and to figure out what yours is, but when you do, it'll help people out a lot when you're talking to them and trying to explain what your solution is. Which brings us to 4. So up here on the left side, again, the solution. So here you want to outline possible ways that you can solve these problems. And you might come up with a couple different ideas, and you'll want to do lean canvases for different solutions. But here, what's important to think about is a minimum viable product. So this is the first edition of something that we do. And the only function of this minimum viable product is to just solve the problem. That's it. We don't want to, create some crazy app that has a million features. We don't want to build some expensive product that does 7 different things. What we want to do first is just solve this first problem for people. And then we'll get feedback from customers, and we'll be able to refine this product and add new features that they want, and we'll get more feedback from customers, and we'll be able to add more features to solve this problem. But in the beginning, you just want to solve it really quickly. And a great example of this is from a student that I worked with in London a couple of weeks ago. And he had this idea for on-demand barbers on campus. So a lot of college students don't have cars. They can't get off campus during normal hours to get a haircut. So he wanted an on-demand barber on campus. Awesome. That is definitely a problem students have. And he said, so I just need to build this app. And I said, oh, no, we don't need to just build an app. What you want to do to test this is print out a piece of paper that says, on-demand barber, give us a call, we'll cut your hair in your dorm room, and put a phone number on there. And that is your phone number. And when someone calls you, you go and cut their hair. And then once you have, 10, 15 customers all saying, hey, this is a really great solution, then maybe you put up a Facebook page and people send you a message to get your hair cut. And once that works, maybe then you build a website that's just one page, and people can, call a Google phone number that goes to your phone, and you get a haircut, or they text you. And then once you've validated this with 50, 100, 200 customers, now you're probably making money, and you're able to forecast things, and now you can work on building an app. So when you're thinking about your solution, think about what is the easiest, quickest way we can test if this works. The next thing that you'll want to think about looking at this lean canvas and sketching out is box number 5. So that's back on the right side, channels. So this is how do you reach your customers? So are you reaching people? Do you have a brick and mortar store? Are you reaching people through online advertising, through word of mouth, through outbound sales? How do you get to them? Box number 6, this is really important. So revenue streams, how do you make money? Is this something where people just buy a product, direct sales to customers? Is this something where people are subscribing to a service you offer? Is this something where you have, some wholesale going on? How do you make money? And list out all of the different ways that you might be able to do that. And then box number 7 on the bottom on the left-hand side, so that's cost structure. So this is important to keep in mind when you're determining your pricing. So how much is it going to cost you to do this? And that'll help you figure out how much you can and should charge people. Box number 8 is key metrics. So this shows you, or allows you to think about what is important for you to keep track of as you're building this business. What are the things that you're going to say, okay, this number means we're successful. This number shows that we're not that successful. So that could be the number of customers. That could be, the number of people that use your product every day. That could be the number of people that renew their subscription. That could be the amount of money you're making. So what are the things that tell you that your business is going well? And then box number 9 is something that we talk about briefly, but it's not as important in the beginning. And that is because in the beginning, we do not have an unfair advantage. So unfair advantage is what you do that others cannot, that they can't buy and that they can't copy. So for example, 3-Day Startup, when this organization began 10 years ago, we did not have an unfair advantage. Our co-founders did not know what they were doing. They were just testing things and seeing what happened. Now, 10 years later, we've delivered over 400 programs all over the world, and we have a massive network of mentors and entrepreneurs, and the institutional knowledge that we have from 10 years of programming is something that no one else can copy. So this is something that you just want to think about. What might that advantage be in the future? So I know that was a lot of information to throw at you. As I said, there's a ton of resources online about this, and you can actually create your own lean canvas on Ash Maurya's website, leanstack.com, I believe. It is free to use, and it also has a ton of resources of how to use the lean canvas and how to think about things. So after filling out a lean canvas, you have probably a better idea of what you're thinking of, what this problem is, what this solution might look like. But then you have to go out and you have to actually test it. And the way you do that is talking to customers. So remember I said that you don't want to be afraid to share our idea to get feedback. And it's extra important to be able to go out and talk to the people who have this problem. And so there's a lot we could talk about with customer discovery and testing an idea, but the basics around it are you want to look at your lean canvas and you want to see the customers that you've identified, and you want to think about what are the questions that I can ask them that would test the assumptions I have about a problem. So if we're thinking that the problem is that parking downtown in a city is really hard for business people that work there and have cars, we might want to go downtown and talk to people that look like professionals, maybe that are in a certain age group that we've identified, and we want to say, can you tell me about your experience with driving to work? Do you park downtown? Tell me about what you like about parking downtown. What don't you like about this? Tell me more about that. What do you currently do? And so you want to just dig deep on getting to the root of the problem. And what you might find is that, you talk to 50 people and they all say, it's not so much the parking downtown that's frustrating for me. It's, the getting downtown. And then you can think, okay, this is not the problem I originally thought existed, but it obviously is a problem, and now I can try and solve that. So it's really important to talk to customers throughout the process. So this is something like the lean canvas that we do over and over again, because this is an iterative process, like we said before. So when you go out and talk to customers and they all tell you, this is the problem I have, here's what I feel about it, you go back to your lean canvas and you revisit it with your new assumptions, and then you come up with some way that you think can solve those pain points, and then you go back out to talk to customers again about that solution, getting their feedback, and you just keep doing this throughout the process. And even when you've established your company and you have a product and customers are paying you for it and everything is going well, you still want to make sure that you're talking to your customers to make sure that you're still solving the right problem for them. And maybe there's new problems you can start to solve that relate to your current company. So I want to make sure that I leave time for some questions. I hope you all have some. But just some next steps for you all to think about. Those of you that maybe have an idea, or you think you might have an idea, or you're not sure if you have an idea but you want to be an entrepreneur, over the next week, just be observant about your surroundings. What problems or challenges do you face when you're going to work, when you're at work, when you're at home, when you're cooking dinner, when you're with your family, when you're with your friends? Whatever it is, just be really mindful of all of the times where you or someone that you're with says, "Oh, I wish this could be better. I wish that this was faster or this was easier." And then, so once you've identified a problem and you think, okay, there must be other people that feel this pain too. Fill out a lean canvas. So generate some assumptions about this problem and about your customers, and then get out there and talk to customers. I know for some people that is really intimidating. It was very intimidating for my co-founder and I. And I think that is part of where we struggled in not talking to customers or identifying customers. But it's so necessary and so important to get out and talk to people and find other people who have this problem and learn from them about this problem and about their experiences, because it will only serve to help you and to make you better in solving this. So I'll leave this up for just a quick second, and then we can go into some Q&A and some chatting. I would love any feedback on this. Again, I know this is a lot of information. This is the first time that I've presented it this way. So let me know if there's anything I can do better. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. So that's my personal email address, my LinkedIn, and I'm at Shayna Dunitz on Twitter, so you can tweet me anything as well. I mostly tweet about tech startups and social justice and CrossFit. So if that is at all interesting to you, feel free to connect.